Hey, Shalom Akim. First and foremost, give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bashim Yahushai, Bashim Achak with us. Double honors under the elders Apostle Millstone, the elders of Millstone, and of course, peace and blessings under the hopeful elect, the sincere servants of Yahweh, Bashim Yahushai, serving him in truth and sincerity. Yes, I'm the brother Chayaba from GMS Plaintables camp. Come back with another lesson to the spirit. Yeah, this lesson be based off this article from nationalnews.com, which is entitled, it says, Mysterious Trio of UFOs Spotted Over NYC, Advanced Technology or Government Secrets. And as we know, it's already been talked about for Narrow 47, to release those files on the UFOs. Obviously, they already released the files on, the Epstein, whatever, or at least a heavily redacted version. And hey, at the end of the day, we know it's just a game. What they bring out, again, is just a highly filtered version of what they actually have. But yeah, and ultimately, what we know exactly what these so-called UFOs are. Esau isn't gonna tell you. Esau being, of course, a so-called white man strong with the elites of the society, the elite international banking families. Obviously, they're not going to tell you what these UFOs are. They're going to tell you, though, oh, it's aliens. We don't know what it is. Oh, UAPs or whatever. Again, they're not going to tell you what these are. But we know, of course, according to the scriptures, these are the chariots of the Lord. Scriptures go into the exact appearance of how these UFOs function, how they look like, so-called UFOs. What? And they are described to be the chariots of the Lord. So no, these aren't aliens from Mars or this and that, aliens from whatever. No, ultimately they are the angels of the Lord. And what does alien mean? Alien just means basically foreigner. So I guess technically, you could call them aliens because they're, of course, at least not foreign to this, or Slakia, because obviously they're not regulars, a part of the society. The angels, again, but even though the angels are constantly around us, and I'm saying us, referring on to the elect, and ultimately the angels are taking account of everything. Because the angels are the Lord's messengers. But the point is that they're going to be alien onto Esau and onto these other nations, and of course onto the 2/3 of our people. Because again, they're going to come from the heavens with Yahushai, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus. Of course, to deliver the elect, and ultimately, the elect being delivered, Yahushai is going to command them, starting with the 144,000, to establish his righteous rulership. Ultimately, Yahushua is coming back to establish his righteous rulership, and he's going to use the 144,000, the governing body, to do that. So the point is that, so yeah, they're aliens on the Esau, but we know exactly what these chariots are. Ultimately, they're our deliverance. Let's get a scripture real quick, not to keep on rambling, but Zechariah 5:1. Then I turned and lifted up my eyes and looked, and behold, the flying roll. So this is Zechariah seeing, literally seeing this. It says, verse 2. And he said unto me, what seest thou? And I answered, I see a flying roll. The length thereof is 20 cubits, and the breadth thereof 10 cubits. So this is Zechariah literally seeing this, a flying roll. And he basically described the size of it, but the point is a flying roll. So what do you think a flying roll is? Obviously a circular object that's flying. Let's go real quick to Ezekiel. Or, we'll come back to it. It says Ezekiel 1:4. It says, and I looked and behold the fly, or like it says, and I looked and behold a whirlwind came out of the north, a great cloud and a fire unfolding itself, and a brightness was about it, and out of the midst thereof as the color of amber, and out of the midst of the fire. So he's seeing a bright object in the sky. It says a whirlwind came out of the north. So he's seeing an object in the sky out of the north, it says a great cloud and a fire unfolding itself, and a brightness was about it, and out of the midst thereof as the color of amber. And that it says out of the midst of the fire. So, well, this is literally Ezekiel seeing a bright object. And, well, we can link that exactly onto the so-called UFOs. Well, bright objects flying. Skipping down to verse 14, it says, and the living creatures ran and returned as the appearance of a flash of lightning. It says, verse 13, as for the likeness of the living creatures, their appearance was like burning coals of fire, and like the appearance of lamps. It went up and went and down among the living creatures, and the fire was bright, and out of the fire went forth lightning. So ultimately, but these are the angels, and obviously the angels are the ones piloting these chariots, so-called UFOs. It says, and the living creatures ran and returned as the appearance of a flash of lightning. It says, verse 15, now as I beheld the living creatures, behold, one wheel upon earth by the living creatures, with his 4 faces. The appearance of the wheels and the work was like unto the color of a beryl. And it says, and they 4 had one likeness, and their appearance and their work was as it were a wheel in the middle of a wheel. So, of course, within the so-called UFO, if you just look at it, you'll see how, basically you have the inner space, you have the inner circular space within it, or not space, what's the word? Of course, within a so-called UFO, you have the outer sides, and then, you have the inner part of it. So, again, literally, these chariots of the Lord are biblical. And what Yahushua is going to come back, of course, in a chariot. So-called UFO, you go into how he's going to come back in a great cloud. The scriptures say how he's going to return in a great cloud. Scriptures also go into a white horse. And literally, we can go into 2nd Ezra chapter 13. It goes into how Yahushua is going to return, or basically what Ezra saw as if a mountain came up out of the earth, basically within the sky. Well, so of course, Ezra saw a so-called UFO, and what he likened it onto a mountain, obviously because of its great size. And what Yahushua is going to come back in that chariot. Basically, you won't be able to see the ends of the chariot. That's why Ezra's likened it onto as if it was a mountain. And he's trying to see if a mountain came up out of the earth. So going back to Zechariah chapter 5:1, it says, then I turned and lifted up my eyes and looked, and behold, the flying roll. And reading a little bit of this article, it says 3 luminous orbs were filmed over Queens, New York, moving in a synchronized triangular formation before vanishing abruptly. Behavior inconsistent with known aviation physics. See? Because these chariots aren't subject unto Esau's laws of physics. That's why they're able to do, again, crazy things. Go, Mach light speeds, whatever, in one direction, and completely change the opposite direction, going the exact same speed. Obviously, no aircraft of this world is able to do that. And then, if that actually happened, obviously, the aircraft would disintegrate, but changing from one direction onto another instantly. And obviously the pilot within the aircraft would die, obviously. But the point is that the chariots are not subject unto the laws of physics. It says the eyewitness, a drone operator, ruled out conventional drones or aircraft. Yeah, and they're always going to do that. But why are there, again, classified files on these so-called UFOs if it's just always drones and aircrafts and, this and that, a bird in the sky or whatever, or, a blimp? So play this video real quick. And in the comments, it says something is happening in the world right now that we know nothing about. Y'all ever realize they appear every time a big conflict is going on? I've been carrying my Nikon P1000 every day with me just for a day or a night when I see them, still looking for them. Someone said drones are drones, and then someone said a bot named authentically me. So people are saying, okay, so why did it connect into a triangle? UFOs have been seen for millennia, but yeah, it has to be drone. Hey, so everybody's waking up, man. I mean, but as scriptures say, they're going to be, the scriptures command us not to be, what's the word? Basically, in the book of Jeremiah, it commands us not to, well, let's go ahead and get it real quick so I don't butcher it. Jeremiah 10:2, or let's start at 1. It says, hear ye the word which the Lord Yahweh speaketh unto you, O house of Israel. Thus said the Lord Yahweh, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. So we're not commanded, or we're commanded to not be dismayed at the signs of heaven. And that's what these people, ultimately these people are dismayed. What does dismayed mean? Get that in the Hebrew. Hebrew word is Thachath, or Slakia, Chathath, meaning to be shattered, be dismayed, be broken, be abolished, be afraid. Be terrified. So these people are terrified and afraid at these so-called UFOs. And ultimately, they lack understanding of what they are. The point is that the scriptures command us not to do so. Going back onto Zechariah 5:1, it says, then I turned and lifted up mine eyes and looked, and behold, a flying roll. And he said unto me, what seest thou? And I answered, I see a flying roll. The length thereof is 20 cubits, and the breadth thereof 10 cubits. Then said he unto me, this is a curse that goeth forth over the face of the whole earth. For everyone that stealeth shall be cut off as on this side according to it, and everyone that sweareth shall be cut off as on that side according to it. So ultimately, this is, again, Zechariah seeing these chariots, so-called UFOs. And what the point is that this is a curse that goeth forth over the face of the whole earth. So these aren't, you got some people, I remember there's one video of the Edomites seeing, again, so-called UFOs flying within the sky. And basically, they're rejoicing and, oh yeah, hey, let's go, doing dumb shit like that. But, hey, we can do that. We can rejoice because we know exactly what these chariots are. Ultimately, again, they're the deliverance. They're the vehicles of our deliverance. Yahushua is going to send back these chariots to deliver us being, of course, part of the hopeful elect. That's what we hope to be a part of. That's why we're laboring, serving Yahweh by Simeon-Shai. And of course, Yahweh desire we endure unto the end. But the point is that we know, and we're not dismayed at these chariots. But again, these people don't understand what these chariots are coming back to do. It says, this is a curse that goeth forth over the face of the whole earth. For everyone that stealeth shall be cut off as on this side according to it, and everyone that sweareth shall be cut off as on that side according to it. So we can read 2 Ezra chapter 13. It goes into how these chariots have the ability to shoot high concentrated lasers. What goes into flaming breath mixed with tempest and fire, basically paraphrasing. You can go ahead and get it, 2 Ezra chapter 13. But what? Tempest going to lightning mixed with, of course, the flaming breath and fire. It goes into the energy output that these chariots are able to emit, and it goes into how it's going to vaporize, those who come up against it, and it goes into the militaries, how they're going to, try to fight against the chariots of the Lord. That's the war of heaven that Revelation goes into. And guess what? They're going to be completely abolished and vaporized, as 2 Ezra chapter 13 goes into. You can go ahead and read that chapter. So it says, local resident Charlie Correa described the objects as appearing to chase each other before recording the 18-second viral clip. He noted their unnatural movements, including sudden stops and instantaneous acceleration. Yeah, no drone has ability. Yeah, drones are quick. But they can't bypass the laws of physics. They still have to accelerate, and they have to brake, and it takes a little bit of time for them to brake, or to decelerate, if you want to say that. But the point is that they can't suddenly stop and then change direction immediately, and then instantaneously be at Mach speeds or whatever. No, they don't have the ability to do that. Only extraterrestrial object, a heavenly object, because we know that's what they are, has the ability to do that. Nothing that Esau can create, can bypass the laws of physics. Esau is subject unto the laws of physics. But the Lord is not, obviously, because the Lord created this plane that we're in. So obviously, he's above all that. 2 Kings chapter 13:5, it says, and I beheld, and after this, and after this I beheld, and lo, there is gathered together a multitude of men, out of number, from the four winds of the heaven, to subdue the man that came out of the sea. But I beheld, and lo, he created himself a great mountain, and flew up upon it. So this is ultimately what the militaries of these other nations will try to take down Yahushai, because Yahushai is going to come back in that great mountain. It says, the man that came out of the sea. That's going into, of course, Yahushai. It says, but I beheld, and lo, he had created himself a great mountain, and flew up upon it. But I would have seen the region or place whereout the hill was graven, and I could not. So, going to the so-called UFO that Yahushai is going to come back in. Verse 8, and after this I beheld, and lo, all they which were gathered together to subdue him were sore afraid, yet to fight. So going into the militaries, even though they're going to be afraid and seeing things that they've never seen before, the Lord's still going to put his spirit upon them to fight. Why? So that they can get completely obliterated. And this is going to be the Lord showing his power, just like how he showed his power against Pharaoh and his army. The Lord's going to do the same thing against Esau and his army and these other nations and their armies. It says, verse 9, and lo, as he saw the violence of the multitude that came, he neither lifted up his hand, nor held sword, nor any instrument of war. But only I saw that he sent out of his mouth, as it had been, a blast of fire, and out of his lips a flaming breath. And out of his tongue he cast out sparks and tempest. So this is going to be Yahushai commanding the chariots to ultimately do the dirty work for him, to completely obliterate these militaries. It says, and they were all mixed together, the blast of fire, the flaming breath, and a great tempest. So again, going into this combination of power that these chariots are going to be able to emit, and fell with violence upon the multitude which was prepared to fight, and burned them up every one, so that upon a sudden of an innumerable multitude, nothing was to be perceived, but only dust and smell of smoke. When I saw this, I was afraid. So these are the militaries being completely vaporized, again, being turned into dust and smoke. So you already know what that looks like. Again, by this energy output that these chariots had the ability to emit. So hey, we know exactly what these chariots are. And it's 100% revealed. The mysteries are revealed, of course, unto the elect of the nation of Israel. Of course, the 2/3, the heathen, they won't understand. They're going to be dismayed. But ultimately what? Yahweh, the Wadi Yahweh Bashmi Shai, that we have wisdom, knowledge, and understanding to see all these things. The Lord is dealing with his prophets. The Lord revealeth his secrets. As the scriptures say, the Lord will do nothing but revealeth his secrets unto his servants or prophets. So the Lord gives the secrets unto his servants or prophets. And of course, what they prophesy this word. And it goes out so that there's no excuse. And ultimately, the elect of the nation of Israel, they're going to take heed onto those words. And obviously, that's what his brothers hope to be a part of. So again, starting with our elder apostles of Millstone, elders on down. Hey, we have the secrets. We have the information. We have, of course, the wisdom, knowledge, understanding of Yahweh Bashmi Shai. Again, the Lord uses his prophets as his mouthpiece to push out his word. And again, to give understanding. Of course, and only the Lord stirs up the elect to hear those words. The Lord uncovers their eyes and their ears so that they can see and hear. So ultimately, we have it. Tuari Yahweh Bashmi Shai, of course, that we have it. So hey, again, we know that these are the chariots of our salvation, and Yahushua is going to come back with his angels, again, to deliver us within these vehicles. Sending these heavenly vehicles, of course, to deliver us. So Lord, so you brothers out there edified. Yahweh Bashmi Shai, Bashkakodash Bakatham. Shalom.